Yesterday he had said something about me not being slender enough or athletically built to what he normally goes for, and not know that you've said anything wrong is like a huge red flag. So
Am I the only one who's surprised at the fact that Gina has the decency to sit there and say she's offended because how dare Clint body shame her? And it's like, but you started with the body shaming by talking about his hair and his features and how although you were criticizing him, you didn't find him, you were not saying that he was not attractive, but you were just trying to justify why you were not attracted to him or why there was no connection. And I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry, but I don't feel sorry for her. Hey there. Thanks for stopping by. It's Valerie. Welcome to my channel. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Married at First Sight, Season 16, Episode 7. So the episode begins with Gina sort of having a vlog where she's complaining about the fact that, Clint body shamed her by saying that she was fat. And it's like, he didn't say you were fat. He said preference or his type was slender women. If you took it a different way, that's one thing. But you can't say he called you fat because that's was not what he said. You obviously how he said it and how you received it are two different things. But for you to then play victim when you started by criticizing this man's, hair color and telling him you don't get along with gingers, this, that, and the other, you opened the door. I'm sorry. So you can't suddenly say because he's taken offense and he's decided to express himself. You now feel, oh my God, how dare he criticize me? How dare he call me fat? I don't think that was necessary. I don't think it was necessary. I personally think that Gina was not attracted to Clint, and there's something about him she didn't like and she didn't want to work on. And as soon as she opened the door by commenting about his ginger features, and she expected him to say something, as I said last week, and when he didn't say anything, she sat there and was waiting for him. And as soon as he opened his mouth and said, "My type is slender," forgetting that she said she doesn't date gingers, she immediately took that and ran with it and used it as an excuse as to why she wanted to end things with Clint. And for me, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. So Clint then goes to speak to Chris and um, Aris and sort of expresses his concern about the fact that this is what happened and he tried to apologize and Gina won't accept his apology. And I am happy that Chris and Aris were actually able to be honest with him and tell him that it's not what you said, it's how you need to stop being defensive. You need to understand that it's not always what you say, it's how the person that's receiving the message receives it. And you have to avoid being defensive and actually accept ownership of what you said. And if you offended someone, you need to apologize. Clint then agrees that, okay, there's going to be a couples meetup that evening, so you'll have a conversation with everyone and he will sort of express his apologies. Everyone arrives, they sit down for dinner. He then stands up to speak and sort of says, I am sorry if I offended anyone. I didn't mean to call. And he just put his foot in his mouth. And I am happy that the ladies were happy to forgive him because Gina initially wanted to play victim, and all the girls are empathizing with Gina. And it's like, no, be like the boys, hold her feet to the fire and ask her, what about the ginger comments? What did you think? Why did you say that? And how do you feel Clint feels about that, you need to understand that he might have felt offended because just as you have body image issues and maybe you've had people criticize you for your weight and that is something you're conscious about, the same could be said about Clint. He might have had people teasing him about his ginger hair, and this is something he's sensitive to, so you need to apologize. But none of the girls said anything about that. So the couples then sit down and sort of start catching up. I wish Married at First Sight would change their dialogue book because it's always the same question. How is your connection going? Do you feel the two of you are becoming closer? Have you had sex? Do you love each other? I've never told anyone I love, and that was the same thing. So everybody graded their marriages, and it was interesting that Shaq was smart. He asked Kirsten to speak first, and then when Kirsten graded their marriage, he graded after her. And I like the fact that Shaq avoided the toxicity and avoided commenting on things that had nothing to do with him and his marriage. Obviously, Gina graded her marriage. I think she graded it at a 5, I think, and Clint graded it slightly higher because he felt differently. Um, Dom and Mac, they graded their marriages around the 7. And Dom complained that Mac is always joking, and she didn't like that. And Mac acknowledged that, yeah, she has complained about it, and it's something I'm working on. Kirsten then talked about, she and Shaq have a lot of similarities that they're learning about, and things that they understand that this is why we're matched. Although, they did sort of butt heads because Shaq does like to joke a lot, and at times Kirsten feels there's a time and a place for everything, and she feels it's not always important to joke all the time. And Shaq accepted ownership for that. He really tried to stay out of the drama and mind his own business. Um, and I like the fact that Chris and Nicole, well, they felt their marriage was doing great. They gave themselves an 8 point something. And it's like, okay. I think Nicole was very well behaved during the honeymoon because the way she was bridezilla just before the wedding, if she had behaved that way, I've got a feeling that Chris would have said, nah, I'm done. That's it. And so it was interesting to see how they feel they're doing well. And it's like, because you're meeting her rep, I know they did say, now we're going back home, and so things are going to be different, and we're very anxious as to how that's going to play out. And then, Jasmine brought up the fact that Eris hasn't been in love before, and this was a big worry for her because she didn't know whether he would be able to fall in love with her. And Chris then asked him, do you see yourself falling in love with Jasmine? And it's like, why? It's not necessary. It's really not necessary. You don't need to put him on the spot like that. And he really looked uncomfortable, but was just trying to be a good sport. So I don't know how that plays out. In the morning, obviously, that's the last day of the honeymoon. Aries is coming from exercising because he likes to have his alone time first thing in the morning. He's an only child, so that's understandable. He does talk about the fact that he feels that he is attracted to Jasmine, but he thinks she might be more attracted to him than he is, and it's something that he's really working on, which is a good sign, I think. Um, and then Dom and Mac are having a conversation, and personally, I think Dom is another one. She's just looking for faults with Mac because she was complaining about the fact that I hate that you're always complaining when we want to do stuff. I don't like that. If I say to you, let's do this, then you need to be willing to do that. You can't complain and then do it. And because it's off putting for me, because I feel like I'm having to be on a high note for us. And it's like, it's not everything that you want to do that is going to want to do, and it's not everything that he wants to do that you're going to feel like up to doing. So I don't know why she feels that she is, the one to always be critiquing him. And I think it's starting to get onto Mac because he did sort of mention that I don't like the fact that she's always having something to say and something to criticize me for. And I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. And then we have Chris, he's crying. And so it's like, why is he crying? Is somebody sick? Has somebody passed away? Only for him to say they've been advised that they can only bring in 2 dogs. So he has 2 dogs of his own, and Nicole has 1 dog. That means it's 3 dogs, and they've been told by the producers that no, they can't. They only have to bring in 2 dogs. And they were dogs were never really an issue on Married at First Sight. I think the first time I remember a dog was when Jeffy bought Shanice a dog, and so after that, everybody just started coming with their dogs. And for some, it works out great. For others, it doesn't. And I don't know why they didn't sort of tell them. I don't think they could have told them before they got married, obviously, because someone would have refused to enter the experiment. But I don't know why they waited until the last day of the honeymoon. Maybe because they didn't want it to sort of bring the couples down. Because Chris was crying. He was boo-hoo crying like someone has passed away. And I have to give it to Nicole because she was able to pacify him and sort of help him come up with a solution. And he, I don't know. I don't know. Because maybe because I don't have a pet, so I don't understand. Because Jasmine has 3, 4 dogs, so I don't know what she's going to do with her dogs. So Nicole was able to speak to her dad and get him to look after her dog while they bring Chris's dogs. And for me, personally felt some type of way because I think Chris should have been considerate. He should have brought only 1 dog, and Nicole should have brought her dog, and then he should have got somebody else to sort of look after his dog and then alternate his dogs. I don't know why Nicole has to keep her dog away so that Chris can have both his dogs. with I don't know, I didn't understand that how that played out. Eventually Nicole said, they spoke to the executive producers and they told them that unfortunately in the properties they could only bring in two dogs and that's all they could do. And then Aries and Jasmine have breakfast. They do have a catch up and a conversation about the previous evening and the topics that came up. And did discuss the scores that they gave their marriages, and Eris lets it be known that he needed his me time because it's the process is quite a lot, and at the moment they're still having friendship vibes. To which Jasmine answered, she's not looking for for a friend, she's looking for a husband. I think the problem with Eris is the fact that his cousin's words are playing in his head, and he's constantly replaying them and questioning his connection with Jasmine and whether his marriage will work, which is really sad because that's sort of become a hindrance to their marriage, and I don't know how that will play out eventually. Everybody packs their bags and gets ready to go back to Nashville. They're excited to be going back, and they fly back together. I and they move into their new apartments. Everybody's excited to be moving in. They do look great. The apartments. They're sort of similar to the ones I think that they used on Love Is Blind. I don't know whether it's the same sort of belongings that they use or they use the same company. Everybody seems to love the apartments and was excited to be moving in. Even Clint and Gina, I don't know whether they will move in from the highlights from next week. They seemed excited with their property, and everybody discusses going to see each other's place and see how the other their spouse lived prior to them getting married. In the morning, everybody gets ready to go and visit their partner's place, and see how things were going before they got married. And so Aries takes Jasmine to see his home. He has a very beautiful home. In his home, he's got a man cave, he's got a workout gym, and visiting there gives Jasmine a better appreciation and understanding of who Eris is as a man because she's able to see his love for his shoes and how they're properly sort of, packed away, his love for gym, and she understands why every morning he felt he needed to go and exercise, his man cave and the things that are in the man cave and how, you know, it seems everything is sort of set up to cater to his needs. He's never left with anyone, and that's something that he really loves. And so it was sweet to see and it was interesting to see, and it reminded me of Jeff T. I always say this, home visits remind me of Jeff T. They do remind me of Jeff T and how messy his place was, but hey, it is what it is. And then we have Mac and Dom going to visit Mac's place. Mac obviously lives with his friend's parents and he lives in the basement. I thought it was a good setup. I thought it was a good setup, but Dom felt some type of way about the fact that he was living you know, with his friend's parents. She complained from the minute they walked in. She didn't like the place. She said it felt like it was very transient. He hadn't sort of put down roots because he didn't appear to have belongings in the property, and she was worried that he was likely to move from Nashville at any point, and she did not have any plans to leave Nashville. And it's like it's a compromise. You never know. Maybe after a couple of years of marriage, you might decide to move. So you can't set it in stone that you do not want to move at all. And she was very sort of dismissive and standoffish. I didn't like it. I think Dom is too stubborn for Mac. I think Mac is too nice of a person for her. And I don't know how that's going to play out. And I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But it was an interesting episode. So we'll see what happens next week. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Bye everyone.